10th edition gave us some absolutely incredible models. And today, I'm running through my personal top 10 favorites. Not based on points efficiency, not based on meta, purely based on which models stopped me in my tracks and made me think, this is an incredible piece of design. Fair warning, I play Necrons as my main army, but I also have a soft spot for Votann and Tyranids. So, this list is going to jump around a bit. If your favorite didn't make the cut, drop it in the comments. I would genuinely love to know what you think deserved a spot. Alright, let's count it down from 10. Commissar Yarrick. Kicking things off at number 10 is Commissar Yarrick. And look, the Imperial Guard are not exactly the most terrifying faction in the 41st millennium. These are regular humans, going up against Tyranids, demons, and literal gods. They have no business surviving in this setting, and yet, somehow they do. And a huge part of that is characters like Yarrick. What I love about this model is it perfectly captures everything I expected from his character. That massive claw hand, that isn't just a weapon, it tells a story. It says this man has been on the front line. He's taken hits, he's kept going. He looks like he's leading a unit, not just posing for a photo. What really elevates Yarrick for me is something the model can't show you, but the lore backs up. The orcs respect him. They genuinely believe he can't die, and orcs love nothing more than a good fight. So the fact that the most war-hungry faction in the galaxy has basically made this one old man into a legend, that's incredible storytelling. The model earns that reputation just by looking at it. Number 9, Buri Agnerson. So I put Buri Agnerson as number 9, and I'll be upfront. I might be a little biased here because I have a genuine love for the Leagues of Votann. The Space Dwarves do not get enough credit. But here's why Buri made the list. When I first saw this model, I noticed something I've never seen before in the Warhammer design. He's incorporated the carapace of a Tyranid enemy directly into his armor. Now, I play both the Votann and Tyranids, so when I'm looking at this model that literally blends two of my factions into one design, I genuinely felt like Games Workshop made this thing for me. Personally, that little detail of trophy taking, of a warrior so hardened that he wears his defeated enemy's armor, that kind of touch that separates a good model from a great one. If you're sleeping on the Votann range, Buri is worth a look just to appreciate what they did with him. And speaking of Tyranids, coming in at number 8 are the Norn Emissary and the Norn Assimilator. If you've seen my first video about how I got into 40k, you know the whole appeal of Tyranids for me was this idea of a massive hive mind just consuming everything in its path. Big monsters, unstoppable force, relentless. The Norn model delivers that completely. These things are enormous. They tower over most other models on the table, and they just have this presence that screams apex predator. As a centerpiece model, they're almost unmatched in the Tyranid range right now. But what really cemented this pick for me was an image I came across of a Norn facing down on Buri. Two of my favorite models from two of my armies facing each other, it was genuinely stunning. Almost like a piece of art that told a whole story without a single word. That's what a great model design does. It makes you imagine the battles even before you put them on the table. Number 7, Lucius the Eternal. Look, Chaos models across the board are just incredible. There's something about the corrupted, over-the-top aesthetic that Games Workshop absolutely nails. But Lucius specifically stands out to me because of how unapologetically extra he is. The drug vials on his back, the whip, the whole energy of this model is someone who is fully committed to Slaanesh and is having the time of his eternal life doing it. There's no subtlety here, and there shouldn't be. Lucius is a character who has died and come back so many times that death himself has basically given up on him. The model should look unhinged, and it does. The whip in particular is such a bold weapon design, and it just works. It's theatrical, it's dramatic, it fits perfectly. Number 7, and honestly could have gone higher. Number 6, the Lion himself. Lionel Johnson, Primarch of the Dark Angels. I'll say it up front. I have a weakness for the medieval aesthetic. Always have, so yes, I'm biased. But even setting that aside, this model is just exceptional. What gets me is the posture. He's not just standing heroically for a portrait. It looks like he's marching. He looks like a man. Well, a Primarch who has somewhere to be and something to destroy when he gets there. There's a real conviction in the pose, and that's genuinely hard to pull off on this scale. But the detail that I keep coming back to is the companions on his base, his little squires. One of them is just holding his scabbard. That's it. He's not fighting, not posing. He's just there holding the scabbard because that's his job. And he's doing it. That tiny human scale detail next to a towering Primarch is such a grounding touch. It makes the lion feel even more imposing by comparison. Little details like that are what separate a good sculpt from a genuinely great one. Number 5. And we're getting into the Necron territory now. Necrosar Amintar. This model does something really difficult really well. He looks completely grounded and stable on the base, like an immovable object. And yet at the same time, the pose reads like he can glide across the battlefield and cut through anything in his path without breaking stride. That tension between weight and elegance is hard to pull off, and Games Workshop nailed it here. I love the Destroyer Cult playstyle, fast, aggressive, hunting specific targets, and Necrosar is the perfect centerpiece for a Destroyer themed list. He just looks like a being that exists to hunt. No throne, no ceremony, just purpose. If you're building Necrons and want a character that commands the table just by being on it, Necrosar is absolutely worth your attention. Number 4, Fulgrim. And honestly, this model terrifies me. Not in the lore sense, although sure that too. I mean the idea of actually painting this thing. The serpentine body, the massive wings, the sheer scale of it. Fulgrim has this imposing presence that very few models in any range can match. When you see it on the table, it genuinely dominates the room. But what I find most fascinating is the 4 head options. Every single one of them works. Every single one of them makes you feel uneasy. There's no safe choice. Whichever head you pick, Fulgrim looks like something that should not exist and should definitely not be smiling at you like that. And then there's the whip. Same reason I love Lucius, it's such a theatrical weapon choice for a Slaanesh character. But on Fulgrim, it takes on a different quality. Imagine those wings launching him forward at the speed of a snake strike. The whip isn't just a weapon, it's an extension of that whole predatory movement. It's a brilliant design. Terrifying to paint, incredible to look at. He's number 4. Number 3, Logan Grimnar, the chapter master of the Space Wolves. And look, if you've noticed a pattern on this list, you're not wrong. I love models that project presence and power without needing to scream about it. Lionel Johnson had it. Logan Grimnar absolutely has it. He just looks like a leader. The wolves flanking him on each side, the massive fur pelt draped across his armor. It all reads as earned rather than decorative. This isn't a space marine who's given a fancy outfit. This is a warrior who's accumulated everything on him through centuries of actual war. And then there's the axe of Mordecai. That weapon looks like it genuinely seen some things. It's not clean, it's not ceremonial, it's a tool that's always been used, repeatedly, for a very long time. That character in a weapon is something you don't always get in a model design. And when you do, it elevates the whole piece. Solid number 3, and a model I'd happily put on any shelf. Number 2, the new Defiler. And if you haven't seen the updated Defiler yet, do yourself a favor. What makes this model so impressive to me is how it works across essentially all Chaos factions. The helmet options alone give it a completely different identity, depending on which army you're running. That kind of flexibility in a centerpiece is genuinely rare, and it shows real thoughtfulness in the design process. Then there's the model itself. The body of this thing is a monstrous abomination, and I mean that as a compliment. The way the machine and the organic elements blend together, the spider-like legs, the sheer wrongness of the whole silhouette, it screams chaos, without needing a single icon or a symbol to tell you what it is. This is a model that would look incredible in any Chaos army. The World Eaters, Death Guard, Thousand Suns. Slap the right helmet on it and it belongs. That versatility combined with a genuinely spectacular sculpt is why the Defiler sits in at number 2. And my number 1 favorite model of 10th edition, the Satan Shard of the Nightbringer. Now look, I'm a Necron player, so you could argue I'm biased, but hear me out. The Nightbringer had a serious glow up in 10th edition. And what I love most about the redesign is that it kept everything that made the original iconic while making it feel genuinely modern and imposing. He still looks like a Reaper god. He still carries the whole death incarnate energy that the Nightbringer should have. But the details that elevate this to number one for me, the Scarab Swarms. These tiny little Necron constructs swarming around him, barely containing him, like they're the only thing keeping this ancient god from tearing across the entire battlefield unchecked. That single design choice tells you everything about the relationship between the Sedan and the Necrons. The Necrons didn't ally with these beings, they shattered them, enslaved the shards, and now they use them as weapons. The scarabs holding the Nightbringer in place aren't a decoration, they're a leash. And the model shows that beautifully. Its lore, its gameplay flavor, and its spectacular model design all in one. That's why the Nightbringer is my number one model for 10th edition. So, that's my top 10. A Commissar, a Space Dwarf, 2 giant monsters, a couple of Chaos Legends, 2 Space Marine heroes, a Demon Primarch, and a literal Death God. Not a bad list for one edition. I would genuinely love to know what your picks are. Drop your number one in the comments, and if I left something off that you think is criminal, let me know that too. If you're new here, I've got videos on how to start a Necron army, my full journey into 40k, links in the description, and I've got a lot more content coming as we head into 11th edition. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.